Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Fawzia the one with today's top stories. Senate blocks extension of Patriot Act provisions. Obama's Day, a speech on anti-Semitism. Used darts outside Sana after coalition air raids. And Pakistan PM Nawaz Sharif pushes for stronger energy ties with Central Asia. Dear viewers, now the details. Senate blocks extension of Patriot Act provisions. Three key sections of the Patriot Act are set to expire on June 1 unless the Senate resolves a settlement with the House over the future of the sweeping anti-terrorism law. The Senate early Saturday blocked a bill that would have extended the provisions for another 2 months, leaving the leadership in a dull spot as the deadline loomed and Congress prepared to take a week-long recess for the Memorial Day holiday. The bill failed on a prodigious vote, not gearing the required 60-vote threshold to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everybody.
Afterward, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell repeatedly tried to push forward shorter extensions that would allow the bill to expire later in June, but Sam Rand Paul led the objections to that effort. McConnell then said he would reconvene the Senate on Monday 31, just hours before the expiration, and hopes that lawmakers would come to an agreement. We need to act responsibly on behalf of the American people, he said on the floor. McConnell ran down the clock this month, hoping to pressure senators to renew the Patriot Act as it is rather than breaks the law's expiration. He hopes any changes that would weaken the government's surveillance powers at a time when the nation is being threatened by the Islamic State and other terrorist groups. But Democrats and liberation-leaning Republicans pushed back, arguing that the extinct law violates Americans' privacy rights and has not been effective at catching terrorists. They called for the Senate to pass a House-approved bill that would rewrite Section 215 of the Patriot Act to end National Security Agency's mass collection of phone records from millions of Americans not suspected of any terrorist activity. That bill, the U.S. Freedom Act, passed the House by a vote of 338 to 88 on May 13.
During my inauguration, Reverend Hamilton delivered the sermon at the prayer service at the National Cathedral, and I was grateful for his presence and his words. He joined us at our breakfast last year, and at the Easter service for Palm Sunday last night, he had to break this terrible news to his congregation. That this occurred now, as Jews were preparing to celebrate Passover, as Christians were observing Palm Sunday. Makes this tragedy all the more painful. And today, as Passover begins, we're seeing a number of synagogues and Jewish community centers take added security precautions. Nobody should have to worry about their security when gathering with their fellow believers. No one should ever have to fear for their safety when they go to pray.
President Obama spends Friday talking about an old sin that continues to haunt the modern world, anti-Semitism. In the late morning, Obama speaks before the Adas Israeli Convention about the anti-Semitism threats Jews across the world. The speech is part of Jewish American Heritage Month. The president's visit also coincides with the Solidarity Shabbat, when government officials in Europe and North America take part in synagogue visits and other events to highlight their commitment to combating anti-Semitism, says the White House schedule. The speech also comes amid tensions between the Obama administration and Israel's government over Iran, the Palestinians and other Middle East issues. In the afternoon, the President and First Lady Michelle Obama host a reception for foreign diplomats posted in Washington, D.C. President Obama's new Twitter account is drawing a slew of racist and sexist comments and include calls for his suicide for his launching using handle POTUS, the acronym for President of the United States. Obama's messages are pretty basic. An honor to address the Coast Guard class of 2015, says his recent post, confident they will help us meet big challenges like climate change. While some of the commitments are rather tame, how about those gas prices? Many others are unprintable. It took only a few minutes for Mr. Obama's account to attract racist, hate-filled posts and replies. They addressed him with racial slurs and called him a monkey. One had an image of the president with his neck in a nose. The post reflected the racial hostility toward the nation's first black president that has long been expressed in stark terms of the internet, where conspiracy theorists thrive and producers find ready outlets. But the racist Twitter post is different because now that Mr. Obama has his own account, the slurs are addressed directly to him for all to see. The GOP-led House voted Thursday to pass a bill that would extend important legal protections to aerospace firms for the next decade, while expecting the firms from certain rules. Republicans said the Spurring Private Aerospace Competitiveness and Entrepreneurship Act would properly prolong the learning period for the still maturing commercial space industry as it makes key strides and getting people and goods into space. Most Democrats opposed the measure, saying it would compromise safely and leave taxpayers on the hook if disaster strikes. It was a rare moment of partisan friction over an industry that both parties have celebrated for its recent accomplishments, including satellite launches, space tourism ventures, and cargo delivery to the International Space Station. The bill passed 284 to 133 largely along party lines. It now heads to the Senate, which is considering a bipartisan bill to extend protections for the industry only through 2020. Republicans characterized the Space Act, which builds up on earlier laws, as a mechanism for nurturing Americans' entrepreneurial spirit in a field with limited potential. Right now, there's a new generation of pioneers. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California, the bill's chief sponsor, said before Thursday vote, they want to embark on the next stage of space exploration and we would not hold them back. Truth is, Washington never comes up with the next big idea, but we can support those innovators who do and create the best environment for them to succeed. The bill was backed by the commercial space industry's major players, including SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, and Commercial Specified Federation, a trade group representing aerospace companies. Price's iconic Eiffel Tower was shut to tourists on Friday as the staff walked off the job to protest a surge in gangs of pickpockets roaming around the moment. The closure of one of the buoyant tourist attractions in the French capital ahead of a long weekend recalls a similar strike at the Louvre Museum in 2013 as the staff protested over violent pickpockets stalking the halls of the palace. Workers at the 126-year-old Iron Lattice Tower, a glittering symbol of Paris, said in a statement they had chosen to down tools due on increase in pickpockets around the Eiffel Tower and several threats and assaults. They said they want formal guidance from management that lasting and effective measures will be taken to end this surge to faith numerous tourists fall victim every day. The pickpockets from a gang of 4 or 5 people. Sometimes there can be around 30 at the moment. Now, of the striking workers told AFP, adding that sometimes they fight among themselves. Another said he had been threatened while chasing away a pickpocket. He said, "To me, why don't you let us work? If this continues, you will have problems." The company charged with overseeing the management of the movement said in a statement in regards that visitors already present are being punished. It said management was working with police to take measures gathering the security of staff and public. Hundreds of tourists were left disappointed when the lower home to works of art such as Mona Lisa and Venice to Milo, shot in April 2013 after staff complained of being spotted at, insulted, and even hit by pickpockets. Extra police were sent to patrol the museum, which is visited by 10 million tourists annually. Huge explosions rocked the outskirts of the Yemeni capital Friday after Saudi-led air strikes against positions held by Houthi city rebels and their allies, residents said. In southern Yemen, at least 19 fighters were killed in air strikes and in clashes on the ground, security sources said. It was a morning of terror, a resident of a southern suburb of Sana'a told AFP after a string of raids on military bases in the Dhaba and Rimat Hamid areas. In North Sana'a, coalition warplanes attacked a stadium and a camp of the Republican Guards loyal to ousted President Ali Abdullah Saleh, who has sided with the Houthis. Other targets included another camp in Sama and Dalami Air Base near the capital's international airport. Witten said. Residents said the coalition also struck Houthi positions in Mari province to the east of Sana'a, but no immediate casualty tools were available for any of the raids. 8 Houthis were killed in air raids on Aden, while another 8 died in street fighting in the southern port city against pro-Houthi fighters, who also lost 3 men. Across the border in Saudi Arabia, a Saudi civilian was killed and 3 people wounded in shelling of northern province from northern Yemen, state television said. The coalition has waged an air campaign against the Houthis since March 26 in an effort to restore the authority of President Abdurrahman Mansour al-Hadi, who has fled to Riyadh was members of his government. A United Nations conference to relaunch political talks on Yemen is to open in Geneva next week, despite uncertainty over who will attend. An exploded 50 kg World War II Lev bomb has been uncovered near UK's National Football Stadium in London, forcing authorities to evacuate hundreds of people living nearby. Residents and traders have been evacuated from nearby buildings, and a 400-armed cordon has been erected in the area, the Metropolitan Police said in a statement. A Britain's Got Talent studio was also evacuated after the bomb was uncovered by builders near Wembley Stadium in London. The 50 kg device, thought to date from the early 1940s German air raids in London, was found on Thursday. This bomb is a live mountain in a potential dangerous condition, so it's important that people listen to the police and evacuate their homes if asked. We will do all we can to minimize the disruption, but ask the public to bear with us. Any bomb, even under a controlled explosion, could cause significant damage to property, and there is a serious risk to life, an army official was quoted as saying by the BBC. The bomb also threatened the football language playoff finals, which are due to being tomorrow at the stadium. In March, a 250 kg bomb was found in Battersea, southeast London. It was safely defused and taken to Kent to be destroyed. Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif concluded a visit to the Central Asian region Friday, pushing to expand energy ties with their former Soviet states to tackle Pakistan's caloric power storages. In a meeting with his Kurd counterpart Tamer Singh in the capital Bishkek on Thursday, Sharif discussed an electricity project that would see Pakistan import up to 1,000 megawatts from mountainous Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. The 1,200-kilometer power line, which would also supply 300 megawatts to inflict toward Afghanistan, would ease the electro-energy defect of his country of 185 million people, Sharif said, as the two agreed to develop energy security and tourism ties. Sharif promised his country's active participation in the project known as CASA 1000. Sharif also made Kazakh President Alamaziz Antalya during the visit. Though the World Bank is financing half the project, CASA 1000 faces challenges since Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan can produce an energy surplus only in the summer when their mountain rivers fill with water. The project would therefore only particularly solve Pakistan's particularly continuous defect. Sharif flew to Bishkek from the Turkmen capital Ashgabat, where the spoke was Turkmenistan leader Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov on Wednesday. Little detail was disclosed from negotiations in scheduled gas-rich Turkmenistan, but they were likely focused mainly on TAPI, the ambitious Philippine project valued at up to 10 billion that would pump Turkmen gas to the South Asian country and India, also via Afghanistan. The planned 1,800-kilometer link could deliver 33 billion cube meters of gas annually to the growing Indian and Pakistani markets, with Afghanistan likely to absorb no more than 0.5 BCM. After the talks, Sharif said that he hoped to interface work of the TAPI project that would bring advantages to the entire region. The Philippines, however, faces security concerns in Afghanistan and bloating costs while it lacks a commercial investor. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said in April the project may take 5 years to complete. We will break in a moment with the headlines here. Russia warns Google, Twitter and Facebook on law violations. How Apple stock could hit another high. And World Cup 2022, Qatar plays on worker rights, Mayor Pierre stamped. Dhaka continues to be one of the worst cities for living conditions, as it has retained its status as the second worst level among the world's 140 cities in this year's Global Livability Survey of the Economist Intelligence Unit. The capital of Bangladesh was placed in the second position in the EIU's survey last year too. Damascus, capital city of the war-torn Syria, was ranked at the bottom of the livability survey like last year. The list was prepared based on the scores across a range of qualitative and quantitative factors, including stability, healthcare, culture and environment, education and infrastructure. Australia's Melbourne has retained its position as the most livable city in the world for the fifth consecutive year, outscoring 3 other Australian cities in the top 10. Like last year, Vienna of Austria lies in second place, followed by Canada's Vancouver, which was the most livable city surveyed until 2011. According to the EIU's Global Livability Survey report, 13 of the poor scoring cities continue to occupy very bottom tier of livability, where ratings fall below 50% and most aspects of living are severely restricted. It mentioned conflict to be responsible for many of the lowest scores. This is not only because stability indicators have the highest single scores, but also because factors defining stability spread to have an adverse effect on other categories. It added, for example, conflict will not just cause disruption in its own right. It will also damage infrastructure, overburden hospitals, and undermine the availability of goods, services, and recreational activities. The Middle East, Africa, and Asia account for all 13 cities with violence, whether through crime, civil insurgency, terrorism, or war, playing a strong role, said the survey. The other list level cities in the list are Abu Tripoli, Douala, Harare, Algiers, Karachi, Lagos, and Port Moresby. The top-ranking cities are Melbourne, Vienna, Vancouver, Toronto, Adelaide, Calgary, Sydney, Helsinki, Perth, and Auckland. Russia's media watchdog has written to Google, Twitter, and Facebook warning them against violating Russian internet laws, and the spokesman said on Thursday they risk being blocked if they do not comply with the rules. Rockomanjo said it has sent letters this week to the 3 US-based internet firms asking them to comply with internet laws which critics of President Vladimir Putin have decried as entrepreneurship. In our letters, we regularly remind on the consequences of violating the legislation, said Rockomanjo spokesman Vadim Aptokansy. He said that because of the encryption technology used by the 3 firms, Russia had no way of blocking respective websites and so could only bring down particular content and demand in violation of law by blocking access to their whole services. To comply with the law, the 3 firms must hand over data on Russian bloggers with more than 3,000 readers per day and take down websites that Rockomanjo says the contain calls for understanding projects and are searched. And Polanski said Putin, a former KGB spy, once described the internet as a project of the CIA, highlighting deep distrust between Moscow and Washington, whose ties are now badly strained. He promised late last year not to put the internet under full government control, but Kremlin critics see the internet laws as part on a crackdown of freedom of speech since Putin returned to the Kremlin for a 3rd term in 2012. A law passed last year gives Russian prosecutors the right to block without a count decision websites with information about protests that have not been sanctioned by authorities. Under other legislation, bloggers with large followings must go through an official registration producer and have their identities confirmed by a government agency. Facebook says it responds to government data requests about its users that comply with company policies and local laws and meet international standards of legal process. Its semi-annual transparency report, Google said it provided some information on users in response to 5% of 134 Russian government requests made in the second half of 2014, again far less than in the United States. The company says it complies the requests that follow expected legal procedures and Google policies. State Bank of India, the nation's top leader by assets, reported a better than expected 23% rise in currently profit on Friday and said its bad loan ratio declined sharply, sending its shares up by more than 5%. The bank's gross bad loans ratio stood at 4.25% in its 4th quarter ended March, compared with 4.9% in the December quarter. The net non-performing loan ratio fell to 2.15% in the March quarter from 2.80% a quarter earlier. 2 straight years of weaker economic expansion and a stretched corporate balance sheets have led to a surge in Indian banks' bad loans. Government-owned leaders led by the SBI, which dominate India's banking sector with more than 70% share of loans, have emerged bad loans at a faster pace than their private sector levels. The bank said earlier that it had increased security and improved monitoring systems to contain bad loans. SBI, which accounts for about a quarter of Indian loans and deposits, said net profit in the quarter rose to Rs 3,742 crore from Rs 3,041 crore a year earlier. Analysts on average had expected a net profit of Rs 3,723 crore, according to Thomson Reuters data. Weaker economic activity has also taken a toll on loan growth for banks. SBI reported a 7.25% rise in total loans for the year to March compared with the overall banking sector's loan growth of 12.6%. Retail loans grew almost 15% faster than corporate loans. Local net interest margin for the bank rose 5 basis points for the fiscal year to 3.54%. SBI share were trading 2% higher at Rs 296.5 in a Mumbai market that was up 0.6%. The stock rose as much as 5.1% after the results. Apple investors have patiently waited 24 days for the next milestone. A new high is looking like the wait could be about to end. Shares of the digital gadget market surged roughly 3% this week, fueled by bullish talk from investor Carl Insurance that the stock is worth much more. The widely followed stock has been attempting to surpass its all-time high of 134.54 notes back on April 28. Friday, shares closed at 132.54, up 1.15 or 0.9%. That's just 1.5% or a good day or two's rally from blowing past the record high. Shares lifted off earlier in the year on the heels of strong first quarter results. Since then, shares have oscillated on. Investors typically feel comfortable paying up to about 18 times the company's diluted earnings per share over the past 12 months. Apple's trading earnings are 8.05 a share. Applying an 18 times multiple pulls the stock at 144.90 a share or 9.3% higher than where it closed Friday. But more importantly, 144.90 would be a new high for the stock, and that's what investors want to see. Amnesty International said World Football Governing Body FIFA is failing to demonstrate any sort of commitment on ensuring Qatar 2022 is not built on a foundation of exploitation and abuse. In 2010, the Gulf state owned the right to host the World Cup in 2022, but the decision to award the tournament of Qatar left in and FIFA with a number of hedges. Both Qatar and FIFA have been forced to answer allegations to poor working conditions and abuse on immigrant workers brought in to build the facilities for the World Cup, while questions have been raised about recruiting process, in which also Russia was awarded the 2018 tournament. Human rights group Emirates report says FIFA has been unable to deliver the necessary oversight to ensure Qatar keeps its promises to improve conditions and legislate against the measurement of migrant workers. An estimated 1.5 million migrant workers will be key to building the infrastructure for the World Cup. The report says without prompt action, the pledges Qatar made last year are at serious risk of being damaged as a mere public relations stunt on ensure the Gulf state and cling on the 2022 World Cup. Qatar's Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs said it disagreed with a number of Amnesty claims. The Molsa statement added, significant changes have been made over the last year to improve the rights and conditions of exported workers. A spokesman of Qatar's Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legitimacy welcomed the report and promised to move forward with internal and external stakeholders on our efforts to deliver a World Cup that preserves the rights and dignity of all individuals who will work to make the tournament a success. In 2014, the Qatari government promised to improve labor rights for migrants in the country. But according to Amnesty, the past 12 months have seen few improvements for migrant workers who are employed under the country's Khalifa system, which marries an immigrant employee to the employer. The United Nations and many human rights groups say this system has allowed a system of abuse and formed the slavery of storage, and want to see it abolished. Dear viewers, let's have a look at today's top stories again. Senate blocks extension of Patriot Act provisions. Obama's Day, a speech on anti-Semitism. Huge darts outside Sana after coalition air raids. And Pakistan PM Nawaz Sharif pushes for stronger energy ties with Central Asia. You are up to date with our top stories so far here on Millennium TV, and don't forget to log in www.millenniumtv.net. Allah Hafiz.